Okay, good evening, everyone. Good evening and happy Sabbath to you all. We are very
Episode.
happy uh, to be with you all on this wonderful evening for another conversation. We have our wonderful panelists ready for us to talk about this evening. What does the Halloween have to do with anything? So we're just going to look at the this celebration on this evening, the Halloween. As we all know, this is the season. So we want to welcome each and every one of you who will be part of this discussion this evening. Whether you are on Facebook, you are on YouTube, or on LinkedIn and Twitter, we welcome each and every one of you. We are very happy
Go
again
wash
to
your
be
hands and go replace the
to be
back
able
seat.
to be part of a great conversation. As if you're listening, obviously we have one of our panelists will not be presented in in the video, but will be with us by a way of audio, by voice. So let's get to it, guys. Leslie and Janae, Marcus. This is we've prayed already, so we
Hmm.
ready to just go. So uh, Halloween is a very interesting holiday. Halloween was it is a to say it is a secular pagan holiday. It was one of the practices that was one of the practices that was translated. That was I would say uh, that was being Christianized. And it is interesting tonight. We would like to look into that, not from a biblical perspective and cultural perspective, and just to um, debunk on this great holiday. So, Janae, Leslie, we're gonna start with ladies first. So, Janae, hello, how you doing?
I'm good. Allergy season here, so my voice is a little strange, but I'm
Uh,
all right.
all right,
Uh,
right.
well, I think it's really one of several holidays. One is a harvest holiday. It wasn't as much
Mhm,
about vampires and ghosts and ghouls until later on. It was a harvest holiday that was dedicated, um, depending on the culture,
mhm,
to the god of harvest, and then welcoming the god of the changing seasons of the winter
mhm,
season. Um, and that god of the winter season was also, or the cold air and all of that. Um, could have been related to the dead, and so it wasn't as much celebrating the dead as it was celebrating that deity. Um,
mhm,
and then you have it in the aspect of the Day of the Dead in Latino cultures, and then you're dealing with Western Civ instead of Eastern Civ when you're dealing with All Hallows Eve. So Nordic myth lore and um, that kind of thing. And so it's
mhm,
very interesting, the stories about the pumpkin headed ghost and the specters and that really didn't come in until of the 17th
mhm,
beginning of 18th century. Before then, it really was a harvest festival, and it might have been a day like a Memorial Day as well, because it was harvest time. You think of family and friends, just like we do with Thanksgiving.
mhm,
Um, and they may have dressed in special things. in order to appease the gods, but I doubt they were dressing like dead things um,
Mm,
at the time. So it's been a change cultural aspect over time where now it's become very commercial and about hunky vampires and werewolves. And before that, ghosts and witches and a candy holiday. So
mhm,
you have mass production and people making money off of it. The costume folks get money from it, and the makeup folks get money from it. And they do
mhm,
the shows and terrify everybody.
mm,
And get into all that. The thing that I don't like about this time of the year, I don't like thrillers, and I don't like anything that has any possessed person in it.
mhm,
It has the possessed people have nothing to do with Halloween. Even if you want to say it has something to do with witches and whatnot, exorcism of this person and that person, I don't want to see that. I don't. I believe it's all very real. I don't believe dead people are still roaming around because the Bible don't say that. I know there are other entities representing themselves as these things that are supposed to be roaming around, and I'd rather not be involved. So
mhm,
I think it went from a seasonal holiday to a demon inspired holiday culturally, and that just depended on the culture. In some cultures, the dead are not seen as bad things. You
mhm,
know, Southern cultures or Mexican or Native American cultures, death is not a terrible thing necessarily, nor do they believe they're really completely gone. The same in Hindu religion.
mm,
They believe there are several cycles to life. So
mm,
unless you've ended your reincarnation cycle, they have holidays that celebrate the next part of the journey in Brahmin reincarnation cycle.
mhm,
Um, so it's like All Hallows Eve, except that it's more about the thanking the gods for the cycles of creation than it is about just
mhm,
like a real harvest ritual is about being thankful for the bountiful harvest and the weather and the family. It's not about the creepy and the supernatural.
mm. Okay, interesting. Thank you for the for this wonderful um way of describing this holiday from your perspective. Well, Leslie.
I mean, she pretty much covered what I was thinking about because it is, I believe, comes from the Celtic. It's where it originates, and then there's different iterations of it and different changes over time. So, I mean, she was spot on pretty much the travel of the holiday itself. It's she was spot on. But yeah, you know, because of what it represents and pretty much everything that's going on right now, I think that's probably one of the reasons why we should probably abstain from, you know, because there's a lot of things that goes bumping into the night,
Mm,
so inviting those things, I mean, we're already vulnerable as it is.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
yeah. But in terms of the spiritual, you know, I know Janae, you speak of like the origination of, the holiday and Leslie, you also recap on the same thing. But in terms of, I want us to debunking on the fact that the early Christians, they recognized something was not right, and then they would want to Christianize this holiday, so to speak, to kind of make it more clean, like a clean version of it. We call it contextualizing. Contextualizing it, meaning you would take the okay, you use the premise, you use the holiday, then you put in your own context and for your own to to communicate a message, because this is a time that everybody's about, especially the children, everybody's about this specific holiday. So you want to use it as a way for Adventists. We use the Halloween as a day to speak about the state of the dead.
Mm.
I mean, I see what you're saying, but utilizing it, I mean, maybe at that moment you can probably speak about it, but utilizing the practices of it, I don't know if that does us any good
Mhm.
because then you fall into the trap of bringing in old customs and pagan rituals into the church.
Yeah, it's
It
very
didn't work
focused.
well when we first did it, so I don't know why we would do it again. I mean, you're supposed to learn from history. When we had the big inbreeding from Ferdinand and Constantine,
And
uh,
this is why we,
of the pagan rituals into the church because they were seeing signs and visions and thought the whole world should be Christian. That didn't go so well. So, and we still have heresy from it. And so I just don't think, I agree with Leslie. I don't think that's to try to utilize it or revamp it, to do a remix on it is not going to help.
That's a good way to put it.
and the thing with Constantine too, she's right. It's by design. It was literally realizing that after everything that was being done to the Christians, the struggle of trying to get them to stray away from the faith was not working. So that was the best way, just trying to combine the two of them. So
Mhm.
this way, you'll be morphing their beliefs into paganism, which succeed in a way. So are we gonna
But
speak about it?
Mhm.
Are we
did
gonna?
it. I just feel like what we did was just intertwine a bunch of heresy into the church. It was like I can't
That's
convince you to stop doing that, so I'm gonna make it partially
yeah.
acceptable. So
I'm gonna
you'll
come in
agree
and
with
I'm
me. Since
gonna
when
come
do
in and
we
take
start
over.
sliding on truth and be like,
Yeah,
well,
I don't. I think
everything to do with the wrong things and make it so that it fits the church. The church is not made to fit other things. You come into the fold or you leave through the gate, the same gate, but it don't have to
yeah,
be jumbled together. I don't get it.
yeah, yeah. Well, we'll get to the part of this. But Marcus, are you there with us? Would you? Everybody's chiming in to the intro of this great topic. Marcus, are you there? I know there's been a background noise situation. Are you there? Well, you are free to just interrupt when you are ready. If when you to come back on. Okay, going back to I think we need to be very careful as Christian, as Adventists, you know. Uh I think we can use the time, the day to acknowledge as an opportunity to teach. Because instead of what a lot of churches what they do to kind of, for one, to distract the children from going out for a trick or treat type of thing and focus on the costume and all these different things. They use the moment to get them together and just speak about something related to the topic, but on the biblical base, on the Bible perspective. What can be
Yeah,
dangerous
that's
about
good. I
this?
don't think that's a bad idea, Lex. I just don't agree with trying to churcharize it because that's not gonna work out.
Yeah, it's one thing for you to try to have a conversation about it, like know what's going on around the time, and pretty much might have some countermeasures against the trend of the time because you are called as Christians to have a conversation about certain things
Mhm,
versus trying to incorporate those practices
mhm,
into your Christian beliefs
mhm,
because that's why they're not the same. One of them literally honor one thing, and the other honors something completely different.
mhm, mhm,
So, and you gotta think about like the connotation that goes along with that. And even if you look at what Halloween is all about nowadays, which is devil worshiping and all that stuff, which for quite honestly we do frown upon.
Hmm.
If you try to incorporate this thing into church practices, man, you may run into a bigger problem.
But I think there's two part to it though. There's the practicality of things, like practicing the things, and being in the conversation is another aspect. You know, we can use to talk about Halloween, not just Halloween. We know talk about Halloween in this time, but we can. Uh, but then again, I think I'm trying to justify something that is can be very problematic. At the same time, I recognize that. Um, but I think the church maybe we've been so eventful. We don't have the time to do certain things, so we just want to go with the flow of this world and try to pull something negative, something positive out of it. So I'm just gonna leave it alone. I have two different things I want to explore in my own understanding when it comes to this type of holidays. I want to contextualize them with a very strategic, a plan that should be in place, a plan that's been supervised, that's been reviewed before we even put it out there. We can just say, okay, let's just contextualize. We have to have a plan in place. And the second part of it, or I may be at the church where I just want to just ignore this thing altogether. We're gonna be talking about the state of the dead. We're gonna talk about what happened after you die, but I don't have to wait for the Halloween to talk about it. But going back to what I'm trying to say, what I was saying is that we don't have time to focus on educating the youth on these specific things because we know they're gonna be in trouble around this time. So a lot of a lot of churches they trying to make something out of it just to say we've done something. I don't know if you guys following what I'm saying.
No, I hear what you mean. I just think, like a lot of the Sunday churches or the non-denominational churches do harvest festivals, or if they do the tricking and treating, they turn in. It ain't no trick, treat movies, and they'll have a, a party where they give candy bags and have
Hmm.
games, and then they can do movies. I've gone to places where they did lock-ins instead of you out roaming the streets creating
Hmm.
trouble. Especially when they did the whole Devil's Night to Angels Night transition, when people were doing a lot of arson and mischief on, Halloween. The police
Hmm.
started cracking down on it and putting curfews and that age limits and who had to be with parents and arresting people for doing suspicious things. So I think based on where you are and what the crime situation turns into on Halloween, because people take the tricking a little too far. Um, it would be a good time. You could do that, do some kind of event at the church if you didn't want them out there getting into mischief.
Hmm.
And, you know, this season itself, just when the season starts, when fall starts,
Hmm.
start leading up into what events you're going to do and make that one of them so that it doesn't seem isolated.
Well,
Nowadays, kids get their backs up when you start isolating something. They think you're taking
mhm,
it too seriously or not seriously enough. And so, put a little effort into it
mhm,
and
mhm.
lead into it. And then you can deal with the state of the dead and all of that.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get more serious into the cracking this thing open. So, Marcus, I see that you're back. Are you with us? Uh, can you hear? Okay, so we again, you can interrupt whenever. So, okay, now what are you guys saying? Are you saying that we should stop altogether with this stuff? With we should stay away from this Halloween stuff, or what are we saying? What do we? what do we do? What do we do as a church?
You work it into your doctrinal curriculum, just like you do anything else, and then do an outreach. You do some kind of effort for them. Back when we were doing Adventist Youth Society, there was going to be stuff to do anyway. But now that we've fallen away from it, they're just getting back to it from the pandemic. They may go ahead and plan for it. You know, your teenagers especially are not going to want to stick around and hang out with you. The little kids are about the candy and dressing up, but
Mhm,
the big kids will be about the parties that'll be going on.
mhm.
So, those are some things that you want to start getting ready to address at the beginning of the season. I just don't think that we need to put on any kind of show like we're participating in the activities that are very much demon inspired.
Mhm.
Uh, so if you want to do something Christ centered, then go ahead and do it. But as for blending in with the agenda, no, I don't agree with it.
Right, right. So let me just read down. Leslie, you can chime in whenever. Let me read this verse from the Bible, from Ephesians chapter 5, verse 11. It says, "Take no part in the unfruitful work of darkness, but instead expose them." So take no part. So so like we were saying, this is a time that we have a lot of crimes. A lot of crimes are being reported. For example, I was last year, it was reported that a lot of people, they use this moment to attack the enemies, like get put on a
Mm.
mask. Everybody get blended with a mask on. Nobody knows who. Nobody can be identified as who they are. So that's when a lot of people, they get stabbed or get shot on, or something happen. So
Well,
what is the
All
purpose?
Hallows Eve, the actual holiday, was intended for um, people to revenge for the dead or revenge for themselves.
Right.
So,
So-
I mean, it's not like that's a foreign concept. I mean, the All Hallows Eve that came to America and has turned into Halloween was one after the pilgrims and the witch hunts and all of that, which is why
Mm,
it's so popularized with Salem, and it also followed the Great Inquisition
mm,
over there overseas. So it was a mix between the two.
mm,
That's what you usually did. If I want to get you, then I'll call you a witch and say you're terrorizing everybody, and we'll try and feather you in at the very least. Dunk you in water until you're almost drowned. We don't tie you up and throw you in the water because for a witch you float. And if you sink to the bottom, well, then you are with God anyway. So at least you died
mm,
not being a witch. I mean, that was the rationale of these people
mhm.
back then. So, like,
You,
yeah,
you know what's
revenge.
fun? You know what's funny about the witch situation? A lot of times they'll be trying to do these things with these people because they were trying to take the lands away from them. So it'd be like you're a witch, so they can take their lands. There's a lady. I read a book. There's a lady. She owned a nice parcel of land, and they wanted to take it away from her. So they called her a witch, and they pretty much proceed to kill her and take the land away from her.
Mm.
Crazy practices.
Yeah, so it's so speaking of, those who've attacked the enemies on this occasion. So basically, it's looking at the enemies as somebody who's done something wrong to them that must die. So therefore, they just proceeded thinking they doing it on they not doing it per se. They not being wrong for doing it. They just doing it because it is something that is required. That must be something that must be done. It's and what do you guys think of CJ Leslie? What do you think, and Marcus, if you were there? Um, so what do you think of the fact that, like, for example, a lot of children today, uh, even though the church don't, if as a church we don't talk about it, they hear about it from their schools, from their friends, from their circles. So what do you guys think about that? Let me repeat, Janae. The question I'm asking what do you guys think of the fact that the children they are being exposed to these things about trick or treat, from the in their schools and everywhere, daycare.
Everybody's exposed to it. I
Yeah.
mean,
So
the children.
if the church doesn't talk about it, so what do you guys think? I think somebody got to talk about it, whether the parents or the church at some point.
Like she said, make it part of your biblical curriculum. I don't remember the exact word she used, and have a doctrinal based response towards what's going on.
Hmm.
Yeah, but I don't think you need to have a set day of talking about it. It can be part of the regular things I would talk about. But for one, at 70 Adventists, we don't even believe in the dead. Like once you're dead, you are dead. There's
Yeah.
no other world that you go into. There's no other state. We believe that once you're dead, you're dead. That's what we believe in. So I believe that's the stance that we need to take.
Hmm.
Because you got to think about it. There are so many dogmas and so many different things that's going on around the world. We couldn't possibly keep up with all of them. I mean, we just can't. And in today's day and age, there's more ideologies that's coming all the time that are against our very Christian nature that we have to fight against. So my thing is making sure that we address the things that we know to be true and stay steadfast in those things is the best response that we can have, because we couldn't possibly get into every single doctrine and dogma that's being out there.
Hmm.
But having a good response and literally talking about it, I think that's a good way of addressing the situation.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. I keep checking. Marcus, are you there? Oh, um. So Janae, I think it's so you guys saying it's make it part of yeah, I think that would be a good idea if somebody's listening. If you have not
Normalize the discussion is what we're saying. It doesn't have to be centered to all the hoopla that they make this time of year. Doesn't say ignore it, but only emphasizing it when the world is overwhelming in the media and everywhere else is not going to folks' attention with the current technology they have. Unless you're gonna make somebody um and and really plan this thing out, it's gonna be hard for you to. I don't say stay completely out the kitchen if you can't handle the heat. I just say monitor your pots and pans, and you won't be so hot. You don't have to stay of the literal fire and brimstone that's out there. When all doing, I mean, even everything that I watch regularly just for fun, everybody's doing Halloween looks, and so what everybody's doing something, inspired by the holiday. It's if your theme is always Christ and you want to keep it relevant, not Lex is trying to point out how do we keep it relevant to what's going on and address it at the same time. And
I
I
mean,
think the best way to do
mhm.
always be present on their concerning. So the state of
Yeah.
the dead, rituals, those are things you should be going speaking about when it's
Mhm.
knocking away at the populace. When he was still Artemis and the Greek cults and all of the Roman cults are nothing but the Greek cults with different names, but same pantheon.
Mhm.
So when he was dealing with the Roman gods and the Greek gods, he dealt with them, all the time. Not
Mhm.
as that was here. So it was make it relatable. I know the unnamed one, the unknown God. I know him.
Mhm.
So how do we do? Okay, ghosts and goblins. All right, the only ghost I know. And when it comes to this state of the dead, then we talk about that. So talk about the day around this time of year. Then talk about eschatology. You know, that's what do it in
Hmm.
a themed way for the young folk.
Yeah. Well, I think Marcus posted a question here. He's having a response to the beliefs associated to Halloween will actually make a difference. It typically seems biased to the world. So so you guys, what do you guys think of the of Marcus's question there? I think it's kind of a rhetorical, right? So he's having to respond to the beliefs associated with Halloween will actually make a difference. Oh, I'm not really. I don't.
I think he's trying to figure out. I think he's trying to point out that do we need to have a response to the beliefs associated with Halloween? I think yeah, because I think at some point we're gonna be called to debate our stance on a lot of things. You know what I mean? And you gotta think about it. So many people they just love this thing, they enjoy it, and somehow they find their whole identity around those things. So being able to defend your stance against it it's something that we should at the very least be able to do. We don't have to give into the practice of Halloween, but we should be able to defend our stance. Why do we believe? Why is it something that we don't partake in as Christian? And I think that's one of the weakest thing that we have nowadays. A lot of Christians cannot defend their stance when it comes to their beliefs. Or a lot of Christians get overly irritated whenever someone questions their beliefs, and they usually get mad and don't be able to talk about it. So I think being able to defend your stance and your beliefs against a worldly practice is very important.
It is indeed.
Share big side is original sin. You shall not surely die. I'm still combating this. And there are two sides to that coin. There's the terrifying side where they think unsettled spirits will come back and either revenge or cause trouble into them. Or, you know, there are some that are just died in the evil way, and one that were always evil, and they just intend to cause trouble. And then there are genres of this lore too. You know, you have cultic lore connected to all of this, so you really do believe it's the devil's holiday. Then you have those that believe that there are spirits in the spirit, or they cannot get to the realm where they will receive peace, or an aging spirit because they're waiting for our body to go into to start of reincarnation, you know, and you know, or something like that. So it's on the culture and why they think the soul or whatever it is that the tent that supernatural is out there roaming. And so I think that's the first thing when it all comes back down to you shall not surely die. Stuff is out there roaming. I don't believe anything is out there roaming. The other side of that is that people, when they think that there isn't a chance of life after death, let's be clear about that. We just don't believe that when you die, your soul keeps conscious existence. It's not. It returns to the Lord according, and you sleep. You read from Ephesians 5:11. 5:9 says, "For they didn't know nothing, and even their memory is forgotten." Life and death, that's because time is limited for us. So we don't. If we didn't have history books, we would not remember the dead. It's nobody. They can, if they were still living, all those ambitious people, right? The ones that wanted to seek immortality, all those kings that thought they were God, and you think they wouldn't be haunting the mess up people because they don't want to be their legacy forgotten. With screwing it up, wouldn't it be easier for them to just stick around and make sure that their son or whoever, you know, so you know, and then people, you know, believe that mother or father Father or anybody is looking at me from heaven. And also, I
Mhm.
find it creepy that anybody will be watching me. They're discontented, because for them to think that they just moved into a different state of consciousness instead of them cognizant. So it started off as a battle between the two. One didn't want to realize death because we never were really meant to understand it, and the other
Mhm.
thing was that you had the devil kind of playing around with the interpretation of what happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what you point out, Janae, is very important for us to know, especially those who are um very, very appreciative of, the holidays, and because we have some Americans, even though they are Seventh-day Adventists, they very, very anchored, very entangled in the holidays of this great land of the United States. They will fight and always find a way to, justify, a way to hang on to the holiday, even as a Christian. So what Jenny, what I would appreciate about what you just point out is that the devil has a purpose. The devil has a plan. Even with even with when somebody die, God said, you're not you shall you will die. And the devil said you shall not surely die. And today we have this understanding from a lot of people, there's life after death, you know? So it's the devil trying to give you hope. The hope that we have in Jesus. Even when we die, we become invincible because Jesus has the key of life from the bottomless pit. From you can read that from Isaiah 53. It gives you the whole picture there. So because we have that hope, so the devil trying to create a false narrative for hope, to give hope to those who believe in him, to those who follow him, by saying that, okay, if you, even though when you die, you're gonna live among the spirits. So this is something that we've seen a lot happening. And and we must be very careful to know what territory, as you guys were saying, we are stepping into. And like the verse that says in Ephesians 5:11, we should not be getting involved in, nothing that's not producing any fruits. We should be exposing them. So my question now, what is the purpose of Halloween? What is it that, what, I don't know. I have to admit it, I'm not informative when it comes to that. Do you guys have any idea what is the purpose behind this holiday?
It was a celebration of the first. So
Mm,
the lanterns were one, and two, the lights with the faces were to guide them
mhm,
to win in the jack-o'-lanterns. So it had two purposes: is to help guide the spirits by lighting them up with different faces, positive faces and and angry faces. The positive faces are the guide. The angry faces are to remind the evil spirits that they should be moving on, and that you're aware of them. So it was an acknowledgement, the moving of spirits,
mm,
and depending on who you're, getting them to stay away. The jack o' lanterns guard same way scarecrows do.
mm,
The guard, you know,
mhm,
it was about harvest ritual to a harvest and recognizing passed on soul as part of those other religious customs, pagan customs, and
mhm,
then turn just a commercialized holiday and hunky vampires and notice with all those eclipse and twilight movies, the thing is you wanted to be immortal. You had that. Now we're out there killing not just to feed, because I guess if we killed feed not so bad. Just feed on people and turn them, but don't kill them. I don't know. Because you're undead, but you're still dead. If dead is still in the word, why wouldn't you just be living? I never got that. Okay, I'm not gonna. It still irritates me. But the thing is, they make it. The whole thing is about immortality, vampire things, and all the werewolf things. All of that is about immortality. Popularized
Immortality of the soul. Hmm.
guys, immortality.
Hmm.
And there's
Well,
a
go ahead,
heavy
Leslie.
aspect
Go ahead,
of
Leslie.
the,
Then we can mark it.
there's there's a heavy aspect of transhumanism in there too, where you transcending your natural human state into different state, and that's heavily involved in that practice. It's just that there's so many different currents that's been going on, man. The battles for our soul, man. So
Mm-hmm.
all these things are different detractors that are literally set out there to keep us away from what we're supposed to have. But there's something that you touched on that I really like, is hope. And I think that's one of the things that whenever you start diving into those things, the self-reliance of it and relying on the fact that you understand certain things kind of like take that hope away, because the more you believe that and the more that you feel like certain things give you value, the more that the hope is pretty much dissipating. So we just need to watch out as to how those things may taint our soul and how they can have a negative effect on the hope that we enjoy so much.
Mm, mm, that's interesting, and the hope aspect of it is something we can preach on it like all day. Uh, it's a false hope. Everything that God does, the devil mimic, try to give the counterfeit. Um,
But if you look,
me,
Yeah.
me
you look
personally,
goes in
if there's
the
anything, if there's anything I don't understand, because the Bible is very vivid, the Bible is clear. If I don't really understand something of practice, I'll stay away from it. Because the devil doesn't come up with something just obscurity, for the fun of it. There's always a master plan behind it. If
I
you
think the second part of that plan, Leslie touched on. He
Mhm.
talked about, you know, them the transmorphing in, from human ability or godlike abilities. What did he tell her? It'll make you like God. So all the strength and immortality, and they can see into the future. You had seer vampires and seer werewolves,
Mhm.
and that all the same lie, just
Yeah.
evolved in different beings. You won't be this being, you'll be another being.
Mm.
You know, one discontent with the humanity that God gave us because we were creatures out of the creative mind of God. So one, you discontent with what you are. You'll be like God. You won't die, though
Mhm.
you don't. And then now you have Luciferianism. We used to call it Satanology or whatever, but now there are branches of that Luciferian the whole time. Lucifer was just trying to bring us wisdom, and God was like, "You don't need," and they thought that was really, it's a hope for him. God
Mm.
was not nice
Mm.
to things, and it was an equality issue,
Mm.
and
Mm.
and
Well,
so and we only have our narrative, the Christian narrative. The flip of all of that now.
mhm. Well, shall we get to Marcus's statement there? A question and a statement. It says, could it be that the Halloween is another way of the world is in search of a higher power? Because based on
Okay.
research, it started off as something people used to celebrate for harvest, then later adopted as a pagan holiday. I mean, we all know that I think we all know that the devil is trying to create an army, trying to take over this world. He would do all that he can, as God is trying to get as many as possible into heaven. The devil is trying to get as many as possible to perish with him. He tried to even get Jesus to come on board with him.
Yeah.
So, so this is, I wouldn't put that past the devil trying to create the harvest. Um, you know, confiscating people's mind and you know, you know, blocking salvation for a lot, especially the youth, starting with the youth. And the fact that we go back to the church got to be very careful how they tackle the situation with the youth if we really care about our children. Because Satan is very, I'm gonna be preaching on touching on now this Sabbath. Satan is very interested in our children.
Yep.
Very much so. Is interested. He wants to hire them. Yeah, he can use them as great assets for his plan. So in things like this, we cannot be, unless we have enemies inside of us who's just spreading tears, doing this on purpose, confusion. It called end job, end job. We make a lot of end job, unless this is what's going on now. But clearly, if that's not what's going on, if you're an Adventist, you're a leader, you're a pastor out there, and this is the season, we need to be very careful, because this is something that has a lot to do with our children. The projection is on our children. The trick or treat, the type of thing, you see a whole bunch of kids going out there. It's about the children. Even now, trust me, because of television, because of social media, if you're a kid out there, you have some kind of knowledge of Halloween. You know it's out there. Yeah? And they are questioning it in their mind. So it's
See,
a lot. It's not something to take lightly at all.
it was a plan for him to manipulate things, because there's nothing wrong with the harvest series, even if it's a harvest festival dedicated to a different deity. Just like Paul, the unknown God, you could intercept that and tell the truth about creation, to tell creation stories and how God created the different things like that, which is what they had at harvest ceremonies in the Israel, the first fruits and the tabernacles, all of that. That was around harvest time. That was around now. So how can I manipulate it, attack them from a young age to get them away from acknowledging the Creator, because He was created? What He wanted to do was take the emphasis off the Creator and put mischief in living. It's also a time for freedom, like you said, time to be uninhibited. Then I do so. If I want to dress up as a sexy doctor, and tonight is the acceptable night, as a, and drink and parties. Adults have Halloween parties, grown Halloween theme parties and things like that. And so, inhibited and have fun, and so a lot of it lacking the morals, and I agree. It was attacking Christian morals, or Christian, I would say divine morals. And yes, we are Christian. We believe Christ died for us. Worship in the grand scheme.
Yeah. So let me just clarify. Let me just make sure I get this. Did you say that it's okay to harvest for some spirits? Is that what you said, Jenny?
No, they have harvest ceremonies. Usually, the harvest ceremonies that were traditional harvest ceremonies. It was about taking in a good harvest. The ground is cold. Till the ground and put your mulch in, and into that season, So it was it's nothing wrong with acknowledging that God has gifted you with in necessities and needs, money from the market, and that it first fruits and the tabernacles and Passover
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm,
all of that was around. You had
mm-hmm,
it.
mm-hmm.
They even the Jewish tradition had harvest ritual. But Creator for His giving things, His provision. So
Mm-hmm,
I said
mm-hmm.
that use that time because it's not taboo to make it taboo young, attack children young, like you said, to replace the ease of being able to talk about a creator. Because, like I
Mm-hmm.
said, there were a lot of harvest gods. You had the goddess of the hearth and the harvest. She's supposed to be the reason for the seasons changing in the Greek
Yeah.
and Roman culture. So you had harvest festivals.
Well,
It just passed. Holly just passed, and Hindus are family, um, and love and harvest ceremony. Um,
well, this discussion has been great. Let's check online, see if there's anybody has said anything to this. I know this is a topic. Where are the mothers out there? Where are the fathers? Where are the? We want to hear from you. Are you not concerned about what your children are being exposed to? It's a very, very concerning topic, especially for this time. If you have anything to say, anything you want to contribute to the conversation, you can just drop a comment in the conversation on Facebook or on YouTube. We'll be glad to see you participating. Well, Leslie, I think you you have something to say.
Yeah, my stance remained the same, man.
You have
I
something.
just think that.
Go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, my stance remained the same. I just think that given everything that's going on nowadays, and given the current state of affairs, and given where we are in the Christian life, we should be weary
Hmm.
to be distracted to new ideologies. Well, it's not new. Halloween is not new. Something that's been there for a long time. But we
Hmm.
should be wary of getting distracted and get involved with those things. If we want to have a counterpoint to it, I think that's perfectly fine,
Hmm.
because I believe as Christians we're called to be able to defend our stance on the
Hmm.
beliefs that we have. But other than that, I don't think, man, because even finding time to pray is already hard enough. Like
Hmm.
introducing new concepts and trying to figure out a way to integrate, Halloween into the church. Personally, I don't see the value in it.
Yeah, I
Uh,
see. I see
that
what you mean. I see what you mean. So guys, let's kind of put this. Let's take a different turn here. I know, honestly, guys. Let's just take the mean mug away. You know, it's when it comes to the concept of the state of the dead, it's been a very confusing and troubling conversation for a lot of people, especially the evangelicals. Like most people, most Christians believe there's a life after death, or my grandmother or my this and that is looking down on me. This is what we've been, and I wouldn't be surprised if I know some Adventists believe the same thing. You
a
know.
well,
lot of the young kids, a lot of the young kids believe it.
that is
Mm,
Even
it's watching
for the sake of conversation, a lot of them say,
mm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
in it. I know it was meant to be comforting, um, but to me, it's not. Did things that are now not dead watching me, no matter whether they're. I mean, in them. So you're telling me they're in a place where there's no more pain and no more suffering and no more sickness and needs, and they have the opportunity to spend time with Jesus and Enoch and Elijah, Moses, and
mm-hmm.
go to other galaxies now. If they wanted to, or sinful, why would they be sitting around looking in the magic mirror or using Jesus? All I'm doing down here is crying and being in my feelings because they
Mm.
gone. So how is that comfort? Did they get out of that? If they're in hell, they're already being tortured endlessly based on hell. You know, the state of the dead in hell, because it's not even a place that exists right now. It's not. But
Mm.
they're in the midst of being tortured. When do they have time to be like, oh yeah, about my niece, or like I just feel like even if that were true, it's not other stuff for other than being following me around, like
Mm-hmm.
or watching. Like my mom loves me. I lost my mom a good while ago. It'll be anniversary is coming up this at the beginning of this next year, both her birthday and her death in February. But I wouldn't like to believe that my mom was up there. Me, she was sickly when she passed. If anything, I'm glad she's not sick and she's for Jesus to come. Or when we get to heaven, I'm gonna put on the show. I'm gonna be in the choir up there. She said, "Ear, unless you right in my ear." But when I get up there, I'm gonna put on the show. I imagine she's singing with the elves and be the other stream of the holy holies up there. If she was up there, I believe she'd be doing something like that. Well, look at me. I never got it. It wasn't a logical lie.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, but it's now before we get to there's another question from Marcus, another observation. Let's sit on this one for a moment. And Marcus, we're gonna sit on this one before we get to you. Okay. So what you say, Janae, is makes a lot of sense in a combination to what I'm thinking. But I'm saying but not to negate what you said, but in the context, I'm trying to bring out what I know people are thinking, what they are, what the thoughts that people are having right now. So, okay, a lot of people would say the body, that we kind of get theological a little bit. The body, when somebody dies, the soul goes back to God, and the body, which is the dirt, came from the grave, from the dirt, the earth goes back to the earth. So most people believe the spirit, since the spirit goes back to God, that person is with God. So there's I think from the perspective of
Yes.
the evangelicals, it kind of makes sense if you don't really look at it very closely. To say, oh, this God give you the spirit. The spirit is everything. I am that spirit. So now I'm living in spirit, not as a human being, but I'm living with God as a spirit. Do you guys see where I'm coming from? So I'm trying to see how
Am
they
I
look
able
at
to
it.
say something?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure
Yes,
can.
Marcus.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. Yeah. I'm glad you finally hear me. Yeah. With just to connect with what Lex is saying, we had to keep in mind it is the body and the breath. Speaking of the spirit, it is not a person. The spirit is the breath of life that goes back to God.
Mm-hmm.
The body stays in there. The confusion people use is because they use the word soul and they thinking the soul is the spirit. The soul is not the spirit. Soul is the body.
Mm-hmm.
It's the body, and then God breathed into the human nostrils, and then it became a living soul, a living
Together.
body.
So
So
the
once the
body and the
spirit,
soul.
which is the
So
breath
this,
of life,
yeah, the spirit and
leaves
the
the
body
body,
together make the soul.
then you're no longer a full person.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So you're saying, Marcus, so the fact that the body and the spirit merge together make the soul
Make a living creature, yeah, a
make
living
a
soul.
living
That's the word
creature.
we use, yeah.
Right.
But
Right.
people use soul as if it is the spirit. The spirit is the breath of life that goes to God.
Exactly right.
And then the
Exactly right.
body is the dirt that stays on the ground.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And I
So
would like to point out, Grady was not conscious till he gave it a breath. So if he took the breath back, why would the breath all of a sudden leave?
mm,
If
mm.
the breath and the soul are the same thing, and you believe extra in the body, the soul didn't have a consciousness before it got into the body. So why would it have moved? That's the
I'm
part I.
liking it. I like the
Repeat that
conversation. I
question
like
so I
it.
can hear, so I can get it clearly. Can you rephrase or repeat one more time?
Yes, I'm saying since your point was that that breath, the pneuma, tos, combined with the form,
This.
the vessel.
Mhm.
Okay, so if the vessel, which was made out of dirt, had no was breathed into the pneumatos, was breathed into it, which then made it a soul. Okay,
Mhm.
reality with the body is a living soul. The soul itself is not conscious. Life breath, they gave it consciousness. Well, if the life breath is removed, then the consciousness it came together. That's what I never got. How did they separate? And
Mm.
then said
Oh
he
no,
breathed into him,
no.
became a living soul. So the
Hmm.
consciousness came in with, okay, if the life breath is gone, you're no longer conscious. The dirt
Correct.
was not conscious before.
Correct.
Now
Mhm.
you've returned into dirt
Hmm.
before the breath. Go then. It came, it's gone
There you
back to
go.
where it came. So ain't nobody is thinking or seeing anything because you didn't think or see before.
Hmm.
I didn't. And to me, it's very simple. If you let's say, look, for those science brains out here, we're in the process. Did we step? There was never a mental process. So
Mm.
so I just never understood where they even got, even if you want to say that spirit and soul are synonymous, the two words are different even in their original context. The pneuma for breath and spirit is different than the Greek word for soul
It's coming
necessarily.
from false teachers. That's just put it the way it is. Most people don't study
Exactly.
the Bible for themselves.
Uh-huh.
It's only false teachers,
Yeah.
teaching them
So
the
that's
wrong stuff.
even from Genesis, you see God take you from the dust of the ground, then he
Mhm.
breathes, then you become a living creature.
Mhm.
So with that leaving your body, you're no longer you know what I mean? You just dust.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
So
Straight up.
that yeah, so once you
Or
die, that spirit goes
is
back to God, which is the breath,
Mhm.
and the body remains on the ground. And it is not my saying, it's actually Bible.
Mhm.
you right.
Hmm.
Right. 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 You're right on it, brother. And that's the lesson. That's the lesson we study for this. This has been the lesson. But I wanted to get to the point of Moses though. But before we get to that, let's get to I think Marcus, we don't need to address your thing since you have a voice now. Okay, Moses, right? Moses created a lot of the lesson. Look at Moses. The context of Moses. God resurrected Moses. And before I finish with Moses, right? To the point of Janae and Marcus, I think we are on the same page. We are on the same page here. Okay. If when Jesus comes, the Bible says Jesus will be in the cloud, and just no, before I get to the cloud thing, Jesus will resurrect those who would die in Christ first, right? Revelation, right? So I'm thinking those who are with God, what will be the resurrection process for them? If you die in God and now you are with God, right? What would be the resurrection process for them?
See, that was the other part that never made sense to me. If I die, goes to heaven, what I need the body for? Because apparently that's in heaven, unless I'm just floating. Now,
Mhm.
of course, I'm type of angel, which also doesn't make sense because we were never made angels. Angels are different beings. So transform into a whole different type of being. That doesn't make sense. So if it's not been body floating around, then what I need
Mhm.
the body for? Because once you go to heaven, they say put on incorruption when you go to heaven, right?
Mhm.
Now the body was corrupted in heaven. Why come back and get he ain't dirt and half dirt for it? I don't understand it. So somebody in that came from because I don't get it.
I mean, I don't personally where it comes from, but what I understand is, I don't think, I think the reason why the part that comes from God goes back to God, I think when it goes back to God, I don't think it exists as you when it goes back to the main body, which is Christ. When the soul goes back to the spirit goes back to God, I think it goes to the essence of what it was supposed to be. But I think if you are gonna be someone, there's two things that's gonna happen. So whoever dies, the spirit goes to God anyways, right?
Mhm.
I mean, do we believe in that? Do we believe that's what happens?
Yeah,
So
whether in
whoever
God.
dies, the spirit goes back to God, right?
Mhm,
Right.
mhm.
So then the spirit returns for you to get to enjoy whatever you need to enjoy as the individual person that you are. That's what I think happens there. Like the spirit goes back to God, and then the process happens. I think it's a weird process. It's not something that's really clear as to like, oh, this is.
Mhm.
And then some of those things that we can't even comprehend with a human mind, and we fail whenever we try to do that. But I think it's the process of the spirit going back to God and then returning to the body. But I don't think you exist as your individual self when you get absorbed back into the main body, which is God,
Mhm.
which
I
is
don't.
why you need to
I
return.
don't think you do. I don't
Mhm.
think you do.
So,
It's that something goes up there and is existing with him that's conscious out where the in between of those two came from.
Well, let's call it like it is. Going back to the you shall not surely, you shall not surely die. So that right there was a lie. And the concept of life after death is a lie too. The only reason why we get into this conversation is for those who does not get it. For those who do not get it, we get it. We get in the conversation for the sake of those who trying to debate with us. We get it. We know after somebody die, that's it. Ecclesiastes said it very clearly, right? The dead,
Hmm?
the living know that they should die, but the dead they know not anything. And this is coming from a wisdom perspective. Wisdom. It's not just something it's from a wisdom perspective, a wisdom world where wisdom was really on top of the world. So that being said, we are here trying to make sense of things. Hopefully somebody will learn something from what we are sharing this evening, understanding that when somebody dies, that's why we always say, and I believe most of us we believe, we always say to appreciate people as they live. And because when they die, they know nothing. Also, if you're not a believer, and for some reason you get the concept of life after death from the popular conversations, it is time. It is time that we are. It is time that we are. That you think for yourself. You get to the Bible and read the Bible for yourself. So here, so we have since we did not start on time, we are here. Our time has gone very fast. So we should wrap up here. So what's the last word that you start with, Janae? What would be a
In
word of
life, we
advice?
will die. We shall surely die. And in this season, spend time with your family and watch movies, and you want to dress the children up to school stuff. Okay,
Mhm,
but they need to know the difference between those things that lies and deception
mhm,
and immoral behavior. And
mhm,
they do die, and we don't know anything when we die, and we have hope in God to eternal life, not in
mhm,
undeadness. There's no such thing as being undead. So
mhm, mhm.
little Claire, that's a conversation we'll soon be having with her. She'll be 3 soon,
Yeah. Hmm.
and so
Interesting.
my sister and her brother. There's
Mhm,
no need to be scared of these things. Dead things don't exist. They need to be dead things you should be aware of.
mhm,
Right? even those you don't have to fear. And one day we'll live with him forever. And that would be the final thought.
Mhm. Well, that's very well said, Janae. In fact, what you said makes so much sense. If we are, if we believe, it's almost like the concept of life after death is taking a lot of power away from God, from what Jesus did on the cross. That you die, you will be resurrected, that there's hope in the resurrection and in the life. So if you, it's almost like if I can die and I live among the spirits now, it's a promotion. That is a promotion. So that takes a lot of power from God and from what Jesus did on the cross to restate us, our relationship with God. Leslie, what's your last thing?
My last thing is stay steadfast. And I'm just going back to one of the point that I've already made. Just be able to defend your stance, because we will be called to defend our stance as Christians into why we believe the things that we believe. Stay steadfast, and keep clear of being distracted. Keep our eyes on the prize.
Okay, that's very well said. Also, and Marcus, are you there? Marcus? Well, if you, Marcus, well, we're gonna.
Yes, I'm here.
What would be your advice? What would be your last word of advice to anyone who's listening?
Basically, everything is well said. And one thing that we ought to keep in mind is that only one person possesses immortality, and that is God. And that was the very first lie the devil started with, and it is that same lie that is continuing to make you feel like you're immortal.
Mhm.
But only God possesses that. But we want you to embrace the fact that Jesus died on the cross for you.
Mhm.
And if you are in Christ, you will be resurrected when he comes again and live with
Mhm.
him forever.
Mhm. Very well said. Thank you all. And I would leave you with this verse from First Peter chapter 5 verse 8. It says, "Be sober, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, is is running around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour." So just know that your uh, the devil is coming after you, not for your well-being, not for your benefit, not for your advantage, but to have the benefit of you, to take advantage of you. So question things, stay steadfast, like Leslie said, and Tanae and Marcus, and we we know this is a battle that is we cannot fight. We need Jesus to fight this battle. So today we wanted to just come out and just have this conversation because we know it's important for this season. And I would like to thank each and every one of you watching online, and you guys, and Leslie and Janae and myself and Marcus. We want to thank you as well. And this is it for tonight. We're going to have a word of prayer and then we'll be departing. Let's pray together. Dear Lord, thank you so much for giving us the wisdom to come out here and to just have a conversation that can be beneficial to us and to others. Lord God, as we depart from this position, but never from your presence, we pray for your spirit to linger with us. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
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 Happy Sabbath.
Happy Sabbath.
Amen. Amen.